What's up guys, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about whether owning our home for the past 6 years was a good investment. If you're new to my channel, we sold our home last month and it was actually a condo, but it was a detached condo, so it's like a small single family house. We live in the northeast part of the US and we sold our home in order to return to renting and use some of the equity we got from the sale to pay off the rest of our debt. And then we put the rest into savings to put towards a new house down payment at some point in the future. Now, I thought it would be interesting to go through whether homeownership was a good investment for us because there are a lot of hidden costs when it comes to homeownership. So I'm going to break down all the categories for you. I'm not going to get into all the specific numbers though, because I've decided not to share exactly how much we sold our house for, just because I want to keep it private. But I still thought it'd be interesting to do a breakdown of everything we paid, like all the categories and everything we got out of the house. And then at the end, I will give you an amount, a monthly cost that the house cost us for those 6 years. So let's start with everything we put into this house. First of all, we put a down payment. We did a 5% down payment. And so when we first bought our house, we did have PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. If you don't have at least 20% equity in your home, then you have to pay private mortgage insurance as part of your mortgage payment. So we put down a down payment and then we did have PMI along with our mortgage payments. So yeah, initially the down payment, we had our mortgage payments over the 6 years, and we also had our condo fee over the 6 years. And that did cover the cost of landscaping and snow removal for us. So we felt like that was a good deal because it was not something we wanted to have to worry about, and those things need to be done. And then we also have utilities. You know, you pay utilities regardless of where you live, but that was a cost that we had as homeowners, and it was a little more expensive than just a small apartment we found, actually quite a bit more expensive. At the end, we were paying like $600, $700, sometimes $800 a month for utilities because costs had gone way up, and also it was just a really long, cold winter for us. So yeah, we were glad to be rid of those high utility bills. Then the biggest expense that caught us off guard was maintenance and improvements. We had a ton of things that we did. So just the things that I could think of offhand, we did construction to close a loft into a third bedroom when we needed more space when my husband and I were both working from home and we started to have kids. We have 2 kids now. We had to replace a hot water heater. That was $3,000 between the parts and labor and everything. We had to replace our range, our dishwasher, our washer and dryer. We paid somebody to refinish our front and back deck and paint it. And then we also got our house power washed. Every year in the spring, we would do a bee treatment because we had a problem with wasps and wasps' nests like all over our front porch and our back deck, and just a bunch of other miscellaneous things. So maintenance and improvements was a huge cost for us. And then we also had insurance as like a regular normal cost. And then for closing, when we sold our home, we had to do some repairs to our home and we spent almost $5,000 on that. And then we had some closing costs for our like real estate agent fees and stuff like that. So those were all the costs generally that we incurred while we were homeowners. But we did have our property go up in value and we built equity from some of the mortgage payments we were paying. A portion of that went to principal, and then also just the house went up in value. So between those two things, we were able to build quite a bit of equity in our home. And so when we sold our home, we did get a chunk of cash from the sale that was 6 figures. And that's the most cash we've ever had, like at once. So that was a pretty fun moment when that hit the bank account. So when you take the total costs of homeownership, everything that I just talked about between maintenance, mortgage payment, condo fee, insurance, property taxes, all that, and you subtract the cash that we got from the sale, we get a dollar amount. And if you divide that over the 6 years that we owned our home, that means that we spent about $1,500 per month to own this home. Now, does that mean it was a good investment or not? So overall, I don't like to think of home ownership as an investment because you're not gonna get the money out of it unless you sell it. But I do think it was a good investment in this case for a couple reasons. First of all, $1,500 a month is what we were paying in rent for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment before we moved into our home. And our home, even though it was a condo, it was 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and then we built a 3rd room. So essentially 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms with a full finished basement and a garage. So we could have stayed in our apartment and paid the same amount and been in like 750 square feet, or moved to our condo and had like 1,600 square feet plus 1,000 square feet of basement and paid a similar amount. And our rent would have gone up over time. So our rent for our 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment would have eventually been more expensive than it was to live in our condo, which was obviously like 4 times as much space. Also, it was kind of like a way to force us to save, because although it did go up in equity, even if it hadn't, a portion of our mortgage payment went towards principal. Now, granted, at the beginning of a mortgage, you're paying so much in interest, such a big percentage of your payment is going towards interest versus principal. It's really slow, but there is some going towards principal and paying off that mortgage. And so you're building equity in your home that way, even if the home isn't going up in value. So it does kind of like force you to save in a way. And then obviously the home went up in value quite a bit. You know, through the pandemic, housing prices just really skyrocketed and they never really fell that much, at least in our area. And so our house did go up a lot in value, and that's not normal, typical growth. So I wouldn't say that our experience is something you should rely on for yourself as like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. If I own a home for 6 years, it's gonna go up a ton in value and save me a ton of money and be a great investment. Because if we had bought in 2007 at the peak of housing prices, and then we experienced a housing bubble and housing crash of 2008, 2009, it would have been a very different story and it wouldn't have been a good investment. So when it comes to home ownership, and this is different from real estate investing, when it comes to home ownership, I don't like to think of your home as an investment. I more like to think of it, does this home fit our family's needs and fit our budget? And if it fits those things, then go for it. And if it goes up in value, great. But if it doesn't, that's not the primary concern when it comes to home ownership. You just want to make sure it's something you can afford and is going to allow you to accomplish all your other financial goals, like saving, investing, debt payoff, whatever you're trying to do. And does it fit my family? And is it going to fit my family for the next 5 to 10 years? At least 5 to 7 years, but probably more like 10 years, just to be safe in case there is some sort of crash and you aren't able to move, or you're underwater with your mortgage or something like that. The other thing to keep in mind is, although we did have a lot of maintenance costs, our home was almost brand new. It was like 2 or 3 years old when we bought it. And so a lot of older homes may have had way more maintenance, and that would really tilt the scales a lot in how good of investment homeownership is. So you never really know what you're getting into when you buy a house. You do an inspection, hopefully you get to do an inspection and see what you're getting into, but unless you open up all the walls and, you know, dig into the ground and things, there's certain things you're just not going to find out until they become an issue. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about homeownership and trying to figure out, is this something I can afford? That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give it a big thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.